Welcome back. I'm Paul Roberts, the editor-in-chief at the Security Ledger, and I'm here at the RSA Security Conference in San Francisco, California. It's 2020, and we're talking with some of the thought leaders, cybersecurity experts who come to San Francisco every year for the RSA Security Conference. And with us here in the studio, we've got two people to talk about a topic that is getting a lot of conversation and a lot of discussion, which is cybersecurity risks in the public sector. To start out, I'm going to introduce Swami, who is the Senior Vice President of Cybersecurity Response in Malaysia.
Yes, I am.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And Rob Carey, who is the Vice President of Public Sector for RSA Security. Rob, welcome.
Thank you.
It's great to have you both.
Thank you.
So, gosh, we're hearing, this is a topic, cybersecurity threats in the public sector, that is really kind of front and center for many people, in particular because of just the scourge of ransomware infections and cyber attacks that are targeting public sector organizations. Swami,
yes.
You're basically at the top of Malaysia CERT. Talk about how this problem looks in your country and in your part of the world.
So, back in Malaysia, we have initiative by the government. We call it a fourth IR. Mm-hmm. So, to embrace fourth IR, and so that in terms of operational and whatnot, it be more efficient. Mm-hmm. So, the government is transforming the so-called traditional classical economy way of doing things into a so-called digital economy. Right. So with this initiative, it comes with a risk. So we as a national cybersecurity agency is being entrusted to observe, monitor and whatnot, not only on operational side, but also we are also involved on the policy making. So that
the fourth IR, that's Fourth Industrial Revolution. That's
yes.
the acronym. Sorry.
Yeah, the acronym.
Yes, right.
So from third to the fourth, I think all over the world is embracing fourth IR.
Yes.
So fortunately or unfortunately, it comes with a risk. So as a technical specialist center, we are being referred, by the government, by the public and private sectors to provide some inputs as to devise the policy, and also once it is operational, we have a SOC back in Malaysia, according to being facilitated by Malaysian CERT. Mm-hmm. So it is operational. So if anything happens, incidences and whatnot, so we are there to assist the public sector and also private sector.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And I know, Rob, we're going to talk about some of the initiatives that are going on here in this country, but when we're talking about things like Fourth Industrial Revolution, Smart City, and so on, what are some of the initiatives that are going on in Malaysia right now? What are some of the things?
As rightly mentioned by you, is the one of the application is Smart City.
Yes.
And at the same time, the Ministry of Communication is pushing 5G, so that it will be facilitating any applications, for example, like financial transactions and whatnot. So therefore, we are being pulled again. We are being entrusted to provide technical inputs. What are the issues with respect to this initiative and whatnot, so that we can lend our technical assistance to the country.
Okay. Yeah. And Rob, you work on public sector. You work with public sector organizations here and around the world on behalf of RSA Security. Swami just mentioned some of the things that are happening in Malaysia. What are some of the initiatives that are going on here in the United States, and sort of some of the risk implications that you see of Fourth Industrial Revolution, Smart City, Smart Town, those types of things?
Well, so as Swami was saying, the temptation to embrace the technology for its benefits, its mission benefits, its citizen service benefits,
right,
is offset by how do I protect that ubiquitous connectivity, which is coming. Mm-hmm. So the efforts to sort of break down, whether it's 5G, whether it's mobile computing writ large, whether it's cloud computing, the combination of cloud and mobile identity, these things start to take a forefront in how citizens will access services. kids today, the generations that are growing up with computers, I did not. I'm a digital immigrant, but the digital natives, the people who grew up with this stuff, they have expectations that whatever shows up on their phone is real and true, and we have to make sure that that's the case. So the efforts to put a structure around it, like NIST creates standards for cybersecurity infrastructure and the measurement of goodness, so that you're, I don't want to say you're hardened, but you're sufficiently protected against a minimal set of threats. You have controls in place so you know if something's wrong and you can do something about it. So with this temptation and this movement, the technology train moves very, very fast, as Swami was saying.
Yeah.
You must bring with it a digital risk management strategy to track the potential vulnerabilities they're going to come
Right.
about.
So if you watch the Super Bowl here in the United States, you saw, I don't know how many 5G commercials, T-Mobile,
Everybody's 5G. Yeah,
AT&T,
that's right.
Verizon, right? So they're promoting this heavily in the public, even before really there are many services, even before the technology is really in place to kind of get people mentally prepared for it. But as often is the case when you're selling something, security and security risk are not, that's not necessarily a great conversation or a conversation you want to be having with your customers.
Security is generally the bane of convenience.
Yeah, that's right.
So what you can have done on your phone instantaneously is what typically is wanted.
Right.
The security layer is an abstract that is in conflict with that.
Right. Swami, from your perspective, what are some of the things that, as communities, cities, countries look at, Internet of Things and embracing Internet of Things technologies, whether it's for smart city or manufacturing or what have you? What are some of the things that they can be doing to sort of lay the groundwork or prepare for the inevitable security risks and threats that are going to come with that increased connectivity and so on?
Thank you for the question. I think the keyword here is the coordination. As I mentioned earlier, before you operationalize the programs or any initiative, so you must devise the policy. So in the policy, you must be able to understand the risk, and from the risk you put security measures and whatnot, security controls here and there. It can be technical, it can be non-technical, but it must be driven by the policy. So technical is just to assist, in terms of making the operational smooth, seamlessly. But the policy and let's say if anything happen, any incidences or cases happen, coordination is very important. It's vital too. Yeah.
Public sector, private sector,
yes.
right?
It cuts across.
Right.
So that, for example, like any threat intelligence information prior to, let's say, anything happen is well being informed, is being shared to the community, be it public or private, so that they are well prepared if anything happens in the future.
I mean, we've seen a taste of what might happen with attacks like the NotPetya attack in 2017, right, which was very disruptive. I don't think in your part of the world it was as big of a phenomenon, but in Europe and part of North America.
Same. I think the same incidences being faced by most countries.
In most countries, yeah. What lessons did you learn from that particular outbreak, do you think?
Personally or professionally? Professionally, I see in terms of coordination. Because it's happening here and there. It's just like, how do you handle, how do you manage incidences? And then that's why with the establishment of a CERT, as a national CERT, as the coordinating body in terms of technical. So, it's just like a cyber hospital. So, if anything happen with respect to a digital initiative, so they are well assured that they have a cyber hospital or a CERT that they could, report to, so that due diligence is being carried out, so that we understand what kind of incidences happen, and we try to provide the so-called quote and unquote antidote to the victims.
Right.
Yeah.
So Rob Moon, I think one of the trends that we're seeing a lot in the public sector space, as in the private sector, is a very strong movement towards cloud platforms and cloud computing. Obviously at the federal government level, deal with Microsoft, and certainly at the state and local level even, just a very consistent movement in that direction. What is, RSA's message to public sector, government organizations, public sector organizations, as they're migrating applications, compute power to the cloud on how to best manage their risk?
So a couple aspects of cloud. Cloud's been around for at least 10 years in the public sector. The Cloud First strategy came out with Vivek Kundra. And so the reticence to embrace that technology and the promise of the compute storage engine changing shape was security. Because now it's outside my firewall.
Yeah.
And now, does the CISO own it? Am I responsible for what goes on out there? What gets easier? What gets more difficult? What do I have to think about? The federal government put in place FedRAMP standards, and they have migrated over time to become pretty good, pretty well thought out. And so now the risk of moving workloads into the cloud has become somewhat of a rote process, whereas before it was not. Now, and from a security perspective, from the actual benefit to the citizen, the benefit to services, it still is a difficult process because cloud is an anvil that you're banging your legacy IT on, and whatever survives the shake, you can move in. But you don't want to move everything in, you can't afford that. Right. So the benefit is there. The flexibility of what it can do, the ability to sort of secure it and use it and mine the data that's in one place is very powerful, brings citizen services to the forefront. However, again, the digital risk management strategy has to be brought in place. You need identity, so you want to know who's exiting your firewall, who's coming back in. You need visibility, and then you need sort of what I call command and control. I need to look at a single pane of glass to understand the network I have, plus now this cloud that is external. And then, the cloud providers typically have backups somewhere else. So you're really looking at some amorphous place that holds your information and applications.
Swami?
Yes.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the criticisms often of government or public sector in general is tends to be very siloed by function or department. Do you see that getting resolved as increasingly governments are moving to common platforms like Amazon Web Services, Microsoft Azure, Google, and so on?
I think it's agency by agency dependent.
That would be a no.
That was a good no, But I think, and there's a reason for that, because they all have their own cultures, they all have their own. They're starting from their legacy, which are all different starting positions, and they move to the cloud. So they're going to end in a different place. And the good news is, the governments, state, local, municipal, federal, all have legislated budgets. So they're being told to do this, to protect that information, which is really a good thing. The commercial sector tends to afford cyber protections based upon how much can I afford out of my bottom line. The Congress, for example, legislates you will do this. The cyber budgets are approaching 20% of the IT budget. They weren't many years ago.
Right.
IT budgets have flattened a little bit, just under $100 billion for the U.S. Public sector, U.S. government, but the cyber budget's approaching 20. So clearly the need to spend and to protect the now digital transformation that has occurred is resident.
Yeah.
What do you see? Again, you're a top Malaysia cert in terms of the risks or threats to public and private sector organizations in your country, in Malaysia.
On the risk, based on threat intelligence information, because for my division, I have 3 departments altogether. Very important. The first one is the threat intelligence. A lot of information, and with technology today, through RSA conferences, there are so many, service providers and products and whatnot. So it would help in terms of, digital transformation. So from the indicators and whatnot, we try to digest, and from the digestion of or analysis of indicators, we provide 3 reports. The first one is strategic, so that as rightly mentioned by my learned colleague here, that some can be reported to Congress in the US. We also have some sort of Congress back in Malaysia, so that the policy makers, they will be able to understand the risk, the budget, and all these things is very important in digital transformation. And at the same time, we have operation and tactical information, so that it flows from bottom to top and top to bottom, in order so that in terms of defense, it is being managed properly. Coordination, defense and whatnot, as to ensure that we can withstand in terms of attacks. And the number of attacks, it can be a nation state, it can be from syndicate and whatnot.
Cyber criminals.
Yeah, cyber criminals,
Right.
because Malaysia is located in the area of southeast.
A lot going on.
A lot of issues, politically,
neighborhood,
here and there. So it's very important. Yeah.
How important is the coordination with other countries, other national certs, whether it's U.S. cert or what have you, to the work you do?
Very good question. Through AP cert, in the Asia Pacific region, we are the chairman for the AP cert, which consists of Australia, Japan and whatnot, and we are being entrusted to look into malware mitigations.
Okay.
Yeah. So we did a lot of research, and from time to time, through meetings and whatnot. So we have to update, for example, like how to mitigate issues and risks. Is being monitored and whatnot. And through other certs, of course, as a national cert, for example, like we have getting information right from US cert, from Malaysia cert, we share in terms of findings, issues here and there, so that it is a concerted effort at the international level. Yeah, and also we have OIC cert to be able to understand the issues in the Middle East and whatnot. So everything is being channeled through cyber nowadays.
Yes.
Any
Yes.
issues and whatnot in the fifth domain.
Yeah.
So we are sharing a lot of indicators. We call it indicators of attacks and also indicators of compromise.
Great.
Yeah.
Rob, what are some things that governments can do, public sector organizations can do to kind of have the biggest bang for their buck in terms of reducing cyber risk?
Well, it depends on their mission. And what I mean by that is investing in a platform that will cover down on identity, command control. There are tools that are better than others. There are legacy applications that are so old that you really have to be mindful of, do I actually want to have that? So things that they can do is adhere to the federal standards. For example, the guys at NIST and the federal government actually build standards out that a lot of the rest of the world sometimes stare at. It's like, well, that's a good standard. I don't have to reinvent it. So pick a framework, understand what has to be done. You have to build in your budgets and convince your lawmakers to give you the resources to go after that. But you're going to come to find that as the threat moves, you will continue to move your defensive side of your platform into a stronger position. So you just have to recognize that change engine is continuous. And people like, human nature, I like to stay where I'm at. We're not going to get to do that anymore. So if you're a mobile workforce, you have a certain set of things that you're going to need to be able to protect, because your network is at the edge. So your phone or your tablet is really the kind of thing you got to stare at. If everybody's sitting in a building and it's a terrestrial network, that's different too. But things like 5G, as we started out with, you get ubiquitous connectivity. You really have to stare at, okay, I have to protect what shows up on those devices because they are the entryway into my network.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Thoughts?
Yes, with the evolution of technology, not only for the good people to apply it, for betterment, for efficiency and whatnot, but at the same time, for example, like 5G, we are just opening, I call it a cyber floodgate, in terms of, intrusion and whatnot. The cyber criminals is using the same infra or the same technology, but of course their objective is, criminal based. If compared to the, I call it blue team, to defense, for a betterment or for good usage. So it's a, it's a arms race. It's a cat and mouse game. Yeah. So as to, for the cert analyst, you have to be one step ahead, to be able to understand the new technologies and whatnot, and the risks, to contribute in terms of policy, in terms of technicalities.
And one thing I wanted to add, the education aspect of the workforce today. You know, 5-10 years ago, we all took cyber classes, and it was information insurance then, by the way. But today, the young kids who take this for granted, they now have to really understand what does cyber mean to them in the casual usage of the network, if you will. And so education's got to start in elementary school, and it has to continue on through, you must be a competent cyber worker to engage the network. And since every public sector service, I think, engages the network in some way, shape, or form, we all need to understand that and then make sure that that's followed through on.
Really true. Okay, final question. We're here at the RSA conference. What's on your mind? What have you seen or heard that has sparked your interest and attention?
Well, I think this is a very good platform for engagement and whatnot. You know, we have site meetings, we have booth to understand new technologies and whatnot. So in short, I think this is a very good conference.
Great.
Yep.
Great. Anything interesting? Anything caught your attention?
Many things. What's really important here is our president kicked off in the theme of this human element. This is about us and us thriving as a society, now using this network as that basis. So with that must be some level of knowledge in cybersecurity. Must. Otherwise, that future doesn't come to fruition anymore. So, so there's this intersection that, you know, if you stop and think about it, we take it for granted, but we really can't.
Sure. I mean, even with smart city, right? You're going to need the buy-in from the public, and you need the trust and faith in the services if you want to extend them.
Users can either be a weak link or a strength, and you want them to be a strength.
Awareness is another key thing.
Awareness.
Talent and whatnot.
Swami, Rob Carey, thank you so much for coming on and speaking to us.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
It was great talking to you both.
Welcome.